Hello again, everyone. I'm Joe Longinusa, welcoming you to another edition of Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, the show where industry leaders, golf professionals, and legends all come and discuss the great game we love so much. So without further ado, let's turn it over to our host to tell us who's next on the tee. Chris, take it away.
Hey, thank you, Joe. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming back and joining me today again on Next on the Tee. I am your host, Chris Mascaro, and do we have a show in store for you today? I've got 4 great guests that I just can't wait to share with you. First up this morning, I'm going to get a return visit from Allen Edmonds CEO Paul Grangaard. I always have so much fun talking with Paul, so much fun that I usually lose track of time when he's with me on the show. So we're going to have a lot more fun talking about all the great things going on at Allen Edmonds right now. He is set to join me here in just a few moments. He'll be followed by top 100 instructor Tom Patri. Tom has had an amazing career as a top instructor and as the director of instruction for 11 years up at Westchester Country Club in New York. So many great stories and so many great tips that we can't wait to get Tom here on the show. He'll be joining me about 25 minutes from now. Then our good friend, former LPGA pro and now co-host of 18 Holes with Jimmy Hanlin on Fox Sports, Carling Nolan, is going to be back with me. You want to talk about someone who can light up a room and put a smile on your face. Boy, every time Carling has been on the show, that's exactly what's happened. So looking forward to catching up with her a little later in this hour. Then we're going to wrap up the show with 2003 PGA Champion Shaun Micheel. You know, Shaun has been just about a regular with me every single week here on the show. He's going to be back to answer more of your questions and share more of his stories and insights with me at the top of the next hour. So it's going to be a great show today, folks. I am so glad that you're here to take the journey with me over about the next 90 minutes. Next on the Tee is brought to you today by our friends over at Seymour Putters. Let's get things rolling by hearing a word about them.
Golfers, has this happened to you? Great drive, perfect second shot on the green, only to 3 or even 4 putt? Shaking your head all the way back to the cart. I have good news. Help is on the way with the Seymour Putter. The Seymour Putter Company patented RST technology sets up the putter perfectly every time using a visible gun sight on the top line. Genius! It's like locking radar onto the target, in this case, the golf hole, putting the golfer in perfect position to make a reliable and consistent stroke. The 1999 U.S. Open, 2007 Masters, and 2015 British Open champions all used, you guessed it, the Seymour Putter. So if you're ready to make more putts, take strokes off your game, log on to Seymour.com. That's SEEMORE.com and put a Seymour Putter in your bag today.
Yeah, like Joe said, check out the rifle scope technology that helped win now 3 majors and 36 tour events and counting, because this year's British Open champion was using a Seymour Putter. And it's going to help you make more putts too. I know it's helping me. Check them out online at Seymour.com, and Seymour is SEEMORE.com, and get one in your bag. You're going to be very glad you did. We are also sponsored by the French Lick Resort up in French Lick, Indiana. Folks, you want to talk about a spectacular resort to both play golf and to just sit back and relax and enjoy yourself. Well, you're not going to find a better place anywhere on the planet than the French Lick Resort. Go to FrenchLick.com and see for yourself. I had the privilege of taking my family up there back in June. We're already looking forward to the next time that we get out there. The resort, it's historic. It's beautiful. It's got wonderful gardens out back behind the resort and a relaxing rocking chair porch all across the front. And the golf, my friends, oh my goodness, the golf. The Pete Dye course there is kept in championship condition year-round, and they could be ready to host a major championship there at a moment's notice. This year, they hosted the Senior PGA Championship and the LPGA Legends Championship. So if you've ever wondered, what would it be like to play in major championship conditions, you can do it there at the Pete Dye course year-round. They also have the Donald Ross design course there that is fantastic. It's the site of Walter Hagen's PGA Championship victory back in 1924. They've also got the Valley Links course on the property that dates back to 1907. So the French Lick Resort needs to be on your list of places to stay and play. And oh, by the way, my friends, there's a casino right there on the property as well. For more information and to book your stay, go to FrenchLick.com. Also want to give our shout out. You hear me say it every week on the show now, my friends, the folks over at Allen Edmonds, makers of top quality made in the USA shoes. Folks, the shoes of great leaders from the Oval Office to corner offices, the stage and screen, and promising cubicles all around the country are a part of what make people successful. The right footwear is important on the carpets and the hardwood floors of our global economy. Get it right with made in the USA quality and value from Allen Edmonds. Allen Edmonds is an American original. They've been making shoes right here in the U.S., in Wisconsin, since 1922. Check them out online at allenedmonds.com. Let's also kick today's show off like we do every single week on Next on the Tee, and that's by saluting the brave men and women serving in our military. We want to thank all of you for your daily sacrifices, for what you do every day to keep the rest of us safe. We also want to thank our veterans for all you've done for us over the years. We truly appreciate everything that our military personnel do to preserve our freedoms and our liberties. It's through your strength and your efforts that our way of life is even possible. Our sincere thanks as well to Sean Cruz and all the wonderful folks over at the Armed Forces Radio Network. It's an honor for us to have Next on the Tee be a part of your network. You can find our show by going to armedforcesradionetwork.org. Also want to remind our veterans, be sure to check out globalvoiceforveterans.org. What a wonderful site with news and articles and a wealth of information designed specifically for our veterans. I'm sure you're going to find both interesting and beneficial. Please go check it out and then bookmark it. globalvoiceforveterans.org. All right, now back with me on the Seymour Putters guest line is Allen Edmonds CEO Paul Grangaard. Let me remind you about Paul's background. Earned his bachelor's degree at Stanford and his MBA at the University of Chicago. He spent 19 years as an investment banker at Piper Jaffray. He's been the president and CEO of Allen Edmonds Shoe Corporation for the last 7 years. And you hear me say it every week on the show, just like you heard me say it a moment ago. The Allen Edmonds Company began handcrafting shoes made here in America, folks, back in 1922. So they've been doing it for 93 years now. They were on the verge of bankruptcy in 2008 when Paul took over, so he led quite a turnaround there. They partner with Jack Nicklaus to make some outstanding golf shoes. They're the most comfortable golf shoes I've ever worn. I promise you that. There's so much more to Allen Edmonds, though, and like we talked about last time when Paul joined me back in August, you heard us talking about some very cool other items that they have. That you know this got my attention, folks. Their Three Rivers Stadium insert cufflinks, and baseball fans, you want to check out their game-used authentic baseball cufflinks as well, and many other very cool items on allenedmonds.com, and I am honored to have their CEO, Paul Grangaard, back in Next on the Tee with me again this morning. Good morning, Paul. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, Chris. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Better now that you're here with me on the show.
I want to join you in saluting your listeners and thanking them very much for their service to our country. We're all in great debt to them. So it's always a pleasure to be on your show, knowing who's listening in. So thanks very much for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Paul, this time of year, it's the time that we get, a special time to honor our veterans. We should be doing it year round. Every time we see a member, of the military or our veterans, we should be thanking them just as a course of, daily business. But this time of year in particular, we're thanking our veterans for their tremendous sacrifices, as you mentioned, for all of us. So I wanted to start out our time today by talking about a wonderful line of shoes and boots you guys have available now, honoring both a great generation of people in this country and for our listeners here on the Armed Forces Radio Network, a line that honors our veterans as well. Tell everyone about your Normandy collection.
Yeah, we developed this boot. We were thinking about doing a vintage collection, and we were already well on our way to finishing the development of the boot, and I had just been on a trip that I had wanted to do for decades to get to the beaches in Normandy and tour the D-Day museums there, and my wife and I had been there with another couple good friends of ours. And when we came back, I was looking at this boot, and I said, that looks exactly like a paratrooper boot, an Army boot from World War II. So I like to name the shoes. I'd like to think of some way we can connect the shoe to its name and maybe to some of our customers and what they're interested in. And, many of our customers, very educated people, leaders, as you said, in all walks of life. And they are very aware and respectful of what the Armed Forces achieved in saving the world in 1945 and 1944. So we named it the Normandy boot, and it's been our best-selling boot of the fall. It's also our number 2 best-selling shoe overall. So it's extremely popular. It's a great look, They are made out of antelope leather. It's called kudu leather. So they're really soft, and they look like they look like they are 70 years old when you get them out of the box. Even though it's a brand new shoe, the sole is made to look vintage, and you put them on, and they are comfortable right off the bat, and it's just a great look. And people are loving them. We're getting great comments on them, and I'm very excited about it because we're also getting great comments about exactly what I had hoped, which is the honoring of the greatest generation. We've made that clear on our website as to what we were trying to do here, and with the name and also the look of the boot. And then we're getting great letters from customers also excited about it.
No, that's fantastic. And I tell you what, it look, to your point, the look is very interesting to me because, as you point out, it looks vintage when you pull it out of the box. It looks like it's, sort of, game used, if you will. But what a wonderful, not only just a boot, right? You got some dress shoes that look, very similar as well.
Yeah, out of the same leather, we've got some dress shoes that, look like an old vintage. They're not, called them the Overlord just to tie it into the whole Normandy history, but they don't look particularly like officer shoes. We made officer shoes in World War II, but they're just a vintage-looking shoe. Again, you put it on, they go great with jeans and other kind of casual wear or office casual, business casual kind of pants. But they do look like they're right out of the 1940s, which is a really cool thing.
It really is. And Paul, you heard me mention in your intro, I'm a huge fan of your sports collection of gifts. As a kid from Pittsburgh, I love those Three River Stadium cufflinks. And as a Red Sox fan, I'm drooling over the Fenway Park wood set of cufflinks. You've got similar ones from Veterans Stadium. Talk about the other rare gift items that people are able to find on AllenEdmonds.com.
We're one of the things we like to do is we think we understand who our customer is. He's, an all-American guy, plays leadership roles, has a lot of diverse interests, and sports tends to be a very important one. As I mentioned earlier, history and respect for the country, a level of patriotism tends to run through our customer base. But when it comes to sports, we have a lot of fun kind of discovering products that make for great gift items. And you mentioned these cufflinks that are made out of old wooden box seats from some of the great stadiums around the country, great Major League Baseball stadiums. We also have cufflinks that are parquet floor from the Celtics Boston Gardens floor when they changed the floor out. We got some of those. We've got some game-used bats where the handle of the bat or a part of the barrel of the bat has been turned into a bottle opener, which is great to have around the house. You mentioned Walter Hagen and French Lick and his PGA Championship win there. We've got some club heads, old true woods that have been turned into bottle openers. And, my favorite is a Wilson staff iron that it just looks like the old classic iron. It's fun to have around the house. I wouldn't be able to hit it anymore, but on the end of a club. But it's amazing how small those things look. The woods especially are really funny. You get this driver, it's about 3 inches wide. The sweet spot's about 3/4 of an inch, and you look at that in comparison to what we play with today. It's really kind of funny, and it's great to have them. I get comments from my friends when they come over, how fun it is to have something like that. You can get a can opener made out of pizza, tin, but these things are really fun to have around. And then something that's new for us this year, all these things make great Christmas gift items. But one of the new things we've got that, for me, with my history fascination, we've got pens that are made out of wood from some of the greatest buildings in our country's history. When they get remodeled, especially or refurbished in some way, we've got pens from the Appomattox Courthouse. We've got pens from where the Civil War ended. We've got pens from Independence Hall in Philadelphia. We've got pens from the White House. It kind of boggles the mind to think of this might be from a floorboard that Thomas Jefferson stood on, and
right.
And they're not that expensive. They're not cheap, but they come in a very nice case with a description, authenticity certificate. And we just discovered this man I think he's in New York, who came up with this idea. The wood usually sits in warehouses because they don't know what to do with it. They don't want to throw it away, but they don't know what to do with it. And he buys it from them with the promise that he'll turn it into these keepsakes. So that's another fun thing for the holidays. We're very excited about getting into the holiday period here. We've got so much to offer up besides our great shoes. Sweaters that we've had made out of Italian yarns, and they're just beautiful sweaters, either V-neck or quarter zip sweaters, great for wearing on the golf course. So lots of good stuff. I'm excited about it's a beautiful fall day here today in the upper Midwest. The courses are all going to close on Monday. Make sure that they get the tarps on the greens in case it snows sometime soon, and just to ward off the damages that come from frost this time of year. So I got one more round to me tomorrow. I'm looking forward to that, Chris.
I'm sure you are. Holy cow! I can't believe it's about time to wrap up the golf season. It's disappointing, I'm sure, but good luck in that final round. Yeah, exactly right. And Paul, before we get off the topic of the the sports side, I just want to throw out to wet the whistle of our listeners about some of the other stuff that they're going to find. Alabama fans, you're going to find game used helmet cufflinks. Oakland Raider fans, you're going to find game used football cufflinks. For our NHL fans out there, you're going to find game used plexiglass bottle openers. Ohio State fans, you're going to find stadium wood bottle openers. Shea Stay plastic seat cufflinks, and Yankee Stadium wood seat cufflinks. Madison Square Garden, you talked about the Boston Garden, Madison Square Garden floor bottle openers. So much more that you're going to find. So great stuff. Check it out. You can find it on AllenEdmonds.com. And Paul, you sort of mentioned a moment ago as well about some of the historical items that you have available, for people like my father who are not only sports fans, but also history buffs. You've got a pen there from the Lincoln Law Office. You got Stonewall Jackson's Prayer Tree pen. You've got some Civil War era cufflinks and the Appomattox Courthouse pen. Tell a little bit more. You talked about history and patriotism. It doesn't get more historic and patriot than some of these things. Talk about those items as well.
Yeah, it's just it's amazing. You don't really think about the fact that everything wears out, and if we want to preserve some of these great historical parts of our country's history, they have to be remodeled. Just like I'm standing in a room at our house that we remodeled, and when you do, you have to tear out the old stuff and put in some new wood, and these are pieces of history that have been turned into, on a lathe, and they're very beautifully done. And you see the character of the wood. You also think about the wood that was used, the old growth forests that were around the country in the 1800s and 1700s, and were turned into the White House, turned into the Appomattox Courthouse, and then when it was remodeled so it wouldn't fall down upon itself, this wood becomes available, and they turn it into a ballpoint pen, or in some cases you get a real beautiful ink pen. It's amazing stuff, really is. And they come with this authenticity and picture of the building that they're taken from, and a little story about the building, and it's just you sit there and we run in such a fast world now. We're also distracted by our mobile phones and the emails that are flowing in on them, whether we ask for those emails or not. And it's just
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's exactly. I get hundreds of emails a day, and it's easy to just kind of get wound up in the very moment. And it's great to have something that causes you to stop and think about how we got here, the sacrifices that it took to get here, the hard work. The people gave their lives to make sure that we'd have this great country. I've had a chance in the last couple of months, actually, to hear from an admiral who ran NATO and a former director of the CIA, and both of them talked about how you protect our country in cybersecurity and the important role of the armed forces. And the other thing they talked about is how important it is for us to have a strong economy. And that's really our best defense, is to have the strongest economy in the world. And it's fun to be a part of a company that has bucked the offshoring trend and, is able to authentically talk about made in USA and American styling and American products as Allen Edmonds. It's just been a great 7-year experience for me. I feel very honored to be a part of it and honored to have the customers that we have.
And you mentioned earlier, and I think what we're trying to do is expand people's knowledge about Allen Edmonds, because you're much more than just a dress shoe company. And you talked about, some of the casual shoes that, you have and available to, that look great with jeans and that sort of thing. When I looked around on your site at some of the casual shoes, I love the Jingle Bell mock wingtip Oxford and the Voyager walking shoes for those who think, you can't look good and be extremely comfortable, particularly this time of year as we start walking around and doing our holiday shopping. You need to go check out those shoes on AllenEdmonds.com as well. Talk about the casual line of shoes that you guys have available.
One of the things that's the hallmark of our company, I like to say to people, this sounds kind of corny, but not to your listeners, I hope. But if we're going to be the great American shoe company, we got to do what America has done when it's been at its best over the years, and that is go above and beyond, do things that other people either won't do or won't do anymore in other countries. And a lot of the great casual shoes that were invented in the middle part of the 20th century, camp moccasins, boat moccasins, the people who made them, penny loafers, they've sent their production overseas. They've continued to use cheaper and cheaper materials on those. And we've decided we're going to bring some great American styles back in the casual realm and use the original great materials in them so they'll last a lot longer, they'll fit a lot better. In the case of our boat shoes and our camp moccasins, the leather is oil infused so it repels water so much better. It's great to have a boat shoe that actually stands up to the water you might have on a boat. So
right.
Yeah, so one of the big offers we've got coming up for Black Friday weekend, and we'll announce it on November 15th, are these really cool camp moccasins that, just look like the great New England camp moccasins of old, and they're made out of Horween leather, tanned in Chicago, so another great American supplier, and we just really love these shoes. They really look great, and they're $125 on sale, so we're going to really, you can buy camp moccasins for less than that, but not of this quality. It's just really high quality shoe and great to wear. And we've actually got a red one and a green one. And if you buy, both of them, we're going to give them to you for $200. Buy two, get them for $200, and then you can find a friend and split the pair so you can go to your holiday party wearing one green one and one red one.
That's great.
Yeah, trying to have a little fun now and then.
There you go. And, you talked about your sweaters a little bit ago, and as we get into the winter months and the golfers getting out, trying to stay warm out on the golf course, for areas of the country where you can play, deep into the winter, you've also got a pub cap that I think is perfect for golfers to keep our heads warm when we're out there on the golf course when the temperature gets cold as well.
Yep. That's just another one of our discoveries. It's, made out of wool. It's got a leather brim on it. So it's a cool-looking cap, whether you're golfing or just wearing it around in the cooler weather to keep your head warm. That's a fun item to have in the store as well. So,
right.
We're trying to, again, men don't like to shop. They don't go from spot to spot and say, I'm going to come back, later and pick up what I liked the best after I spend 4 hours going up and down the mall. They got other things to do most of the time.
Right.
So we want to have stuff in our store and on our website that, can kind of outfit a guy and make him feel like, all right, I got a lot done here in the last 10 minutes, and now I'm set to go play golf or, go for a run or spend time with the family, get some chores done, whatever it is, so that shopping doesn't become too big a piece of the day. So, we think, again, that we get that guy and what he's looking for. And when we discover something like those hats, we say, let's put them there for him. And if he wants one, great.
There you
right
go.
Here.
There you go. Paul, before we let you go, I mean, for the odd guy that's out there tripping around trying to figure out, what he needs to get, for his, on a shopping list or for himself or gifts and that sort of thing, you do have some brick and mortar out there. Remind our listeners, where the Allen Edmonds stores are, and I think you've got a couple that have opened either recently or about to open.
Yeah, we're about to open in Roosevelt Field in New York and also in Pentagon City in Washington, D.C., yet in the next 2-3 weeks. So we've got a couple new stores coming online, but we're in major metropolitan areas all around the country. There aren't many that we haven't yet gotten into, but we've got 57 stores now open around the country, several in the Washington, D.C. area, several in the New York area, 3 in Boston, 3 in Chicago, 2 in Atlanta, 2 in Houston, 2 in Dallas, Arizona and Phoenix, and Southern California at South Coast Plaza. We're in San Francisco on Sutter Street. Just the 2 here in Minneapolis, my hometown. So we've got a lot of St. Louis, New Orleans, lots of good places to go check out our stores. They're all described on our website, AllenEdmonds.com.
There you go. And Paul, remind our listeners how they can follow both you and Allen Edmonds over social media as well.
Well, I write a blog. It's been a while since I've sat down to do it, but it's all on our website, www.AllenEdmonds.com. We're also on Facebook. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. The key is just know how to spell Allen Edmonds. It's 2 L's, E-N, and then it's E-D-M-O-N-D-S.
There you go. Paul, thank you so much for joining me again this morning. Always enjoy having the opportunity to catch up with you and learn what you guys are doing and to spend some time hearing your thoughts and insights. And if you're ever down in the Atlanta branch, please let me know. I'd love to catch up with you there in person as well. But thanks for taking the time this morning and being a part of the show.
Thank you, Chris. I always appreciate the opportunity. And again, thank you to your listeners for all they do for our country.
Thank you, Paul. Look forward to catching up with you hopefully again real soon. In the meantime, all the best to you and everyone at Allen Edmonds, my friend.
Yeah, thanks very much, Chris. Bye-bye.
All right, take care, Paul. Paul Grangaard, CEO of Allen Edmonds. And I'm telling you, folks, that sports collection is dynamite. The great stuff that they have on there, you'd be surprised what you get to see there, not only from a sports collection, but from a historical perspective, too. Those things are absolutely outstanding. I'm telling you, I'm drooling over the Three River Stadium and the Fenway Park things. And the Normandy boots, if you haven't seen them on there, again, AllenEdmonds.com. What a wonderful tribute to a great generation of Americans and a tribute to all of our military personnel. They're a wonderful style of boot and dress shoe as well. So be sure to go there and check it out. All right, before we get to our next guest, Tom Patri, we're going to hear a word from our friends up at the French Lick Resort, and then on to Tom. Can't wait to hear some of his thoughts, stories, and insights as well. So hang in there with us.
You just can't beat this weather. The leaves are starting to change. It's the perfect time to get away to French Lick Resort and play the courses the champions play. This year, the Pete Dye course at French Lick has hosted the Senior PGA Championship and the Legends of the LPGA Championship. Play our Donald Ross course and feel like 1924 PGA champion Walter Hagen. Fall is the perfect time to play the courses the champions play at French Lick Resort. Book our Hall of Fame package now at FrenchLick.com.
You're listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, heard around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
Now joining me on the Seymour Putters guest line is one of Golf Magazine's top 100 instructors, Tom Patri. Let me give you some more background, though, on Tom. He grew up in Middle Island, Long Island, New York. In 1973, he won the Long Island Boys Championship and the Long Island Private Schools Championship. In all, he won 15 junior events during the course of his junior career. Played his college golf at Florida Southern, where he was a two-time first-team All-American. In 1981, he led Florida Southern to the Division II National Championship, and he won the individual honors as well. Tom turned pro and played professionally from 1981 to 1988 in the U.S., Mexico, Canada, Europe, and South Africa. He later became the director of golf instruction at Westchester Country Club, site of the Westchester Classic and several other PGA and LPGA Tour events. He's been named the Teacher of the Year practically everywhere he's been throughout his golfing career. Golf Magazine has named him a top 100 teacher every year since the year 2000. and I am extremely honored that he is up and next on the tee with me this morning. Good morning, Tom. Thank you for joining me.
Chris, thanks for having me. That was a lot of accolades for somebody who's not very talented, but thank you.
Well, for someone who's not very talented, you sure turned it into a lot of wins and a lot of accolades. So good for you, my friend.
Chris, I've been really lucky. I've been mentored by a lot of wonderful people in the game, people that are common household names that have taken time and a lot of care with me over the years. So I've been pretty blessed. But thank you.
And Tom, I want to start out our time this morning kind of going all the way back to the beginning. At what age did you start playing the game of golf, and who was the first person to put a club in your hands?
Chris, it was kind of a freaky story. My dad was in the restaurant business, and in 1972, I was 11 years old, and he bid on a restaurant and catering concession at a public golf course on Long Island. My dad was not an athlete, didn't play golf, and part of the job when he won the bid was there was a house that came with the job on the club grounds, and one morning this 11-year-old woke up and looked out the door, and there were guys with funny-colored pants and funny-colored shirts and balls and clubs knocking this thing around the field, and never had seen it in my life, didn't know anything about it, never even heard about it in my life, and I not soon after that found somebody had broken a Sam Snead Blue Ridge Wilson 5-iron over their knee, and it was broken half, and I picked up and slid a grip on it, and that's how it started. So it was kind of an absolute freak show, actually, and probably maybe the luckiest day of my life.
And Tom, you started winning events in your early teens, but I'm curious, was there a moment in time when you realized, hey, I could be pretty good at this?
Chris, golf is, as you know, is infectious. It's a crazy sport that's, I liken it to heroin. If you do it one time, you're probably not going to get away from it. And I remember that first day going to the range with that Sam Snead Blue Ridge 5-iron and put it on the tee and didn't know anything. Had a split grip and just took a swing at this thing. And about the third or fourth ball, I happened by complete accident to catch the ball right in the middle of the club face and up in the air and win. And at that moment, I was infected. Now, as far as knowing where I end up now, the thing obviously was a transgression of a lot of different events, but I was in love with the game the first time that first ball went up in the air. So it's been a long courtship.
And Tom, a couple of weeks ago, I had another top instructor from the state of New York, Cindy Miller, on the show, and Cindy is from up near Buffalo, and she played her college golf down at the University of Miami. And I asked Cindy, how a kid from Buffalo ends up playing her college golf down at Miami, and she was like, "Really? You really want to know? You're really wondering why I would leave Buffalo to go play in Miami?" So I'm going to ask you the same dumb question. Was there more to it for you than just the obvious, better weather and perhaps better scenery around the beaches for you for why you chose to go play your college golf down at Florida Southern?
Well, because it's funny, college golf has changed so radically over the last 15 or 20 years. When the University of Illinois and Ohio State and St. John's in New York and so many good northern schools are now fielding wonderful golf teams with indoor facilities and travel. It was very different back then. I mean, if you wanted to play at a higher level, you had to get out of the north. It was a different time in the game. It was certainly a different time in college golf. So as in love with the game as I was and how as infected as I was with the competition, I wanted to go somewhere where I could excel and try to develop myself into the best player I could be, and I knew I had to get somewhere south to do that.
So in 1980, Tom, you guys were the runner-up in the national championship, finishing behind Columbus State. You finished second individually, and you guys come back the next year in 81, and you won by an amazing 35 strokes over at Texas State, and you took the individual honors, winning that by 4 strokes. So take me through coming close in 1980 and the resolve that you guys had and the team had, to get back there in 81 and not just win it, but blow everyone off the course.
Well, Chris, you've done your homework. Not many people would know that about a Division II national championship. We came very close in 1980, and it was a very, very good team. Probably as a Division II team, a team that was very competitive, probably in top 20 in Division I those 2 years. We had a really fine team, and it stung very badly. And I actually made a bogey on the last hole, leaving about a 8-footer right in the middle of the cup short, right on the front lip. To lose by a shot individually. So to think about that event for 365 days was a strong motivator. And we went back next year, and obviously what you don't know about that is when we won by 35 shots next year, after the first round we were 9 behind. So we really made a 44-shot move in 3 rounds.
Wow.
And I played well. We had guys in that event finish. I finished first. A teammate finished third. One finished 7th, and one finished 11th in the same event. So we had a pretty strong squad, and we had played very good golf that entire year. One of the great things about Florida Southern at that time and NCAA golf at that time is our coach Charlie Matlock, God bless him. He put together almost a completely Division I schedule up to nationals. So when we got to nationals in Division II, the competition wasn't very intimidating because we had been playing against Florida and Florida State and Georgia and Alabama and Texas and Oklahoma State and North Carolina and whoever, Wake Forest, whoever else wanted the name. So when we got to a Division II national championship, it wasn't a very intimidating scene for us.
And you're talking about playing great golf earlier that year. Just prior to the championships, you went back to Long Island and you won the William D. Richardson Memorial Golf Tournament, which was a match play style event. You're 22. You beat a guy, Bob Housen, who's 42, 2-1 in the finals. You were down 2 after 8 holes, and you go on, you win the next 5 holes. What do you remember about that event? And did that give you the confidence and the momentum that you needed to carry over to win the D2 National Championship?
Chris, you clearly don't get very much sleep, son, because that nobody should know that in the whole world. First of all, Bobby Housen was if I remember right, you've probably done the research, an 8 or 9-time New Jersey amateur champion and a very, very fine player and an absolute gentleman, by the way. And I had played well just before that in our spring season in a couple events. I had a couple of high finishes and I'd been playing pretty well, and I got invited to the Richardson, which is kind of a big deal event in the Northeast, and back up there was just thrilled to be playing in the event, and I got into match play, and I got on a little bit of a roll, and then nobody really expected me to beat Bob Housen, and really got off to a kind of a slow start in the round, and in the middle of the round I got kind of cranked up a little bit, and obviously he was very fortunate to be such a nice player. But it gave me a ton of confidence, and also gave me a ton of confidence being that the Nationals that year were in Simsbury, Connecticut, outside of Hartford. So we're on bent grass greens, which I was accustomed to, and playing on a golf course that was relatively tight, which was in my wheelhouse, things I'd grown up with. So I was in a very comfortable setting for a couple of weeks in a row there, and got quite lucky and got on a nice roll at the right time.
Fast forward several years, 1992, you get a call from someone with the Sunshine State Conference, the conference that Florida Southern plays in, telling you that you're going to be inducted into their Hall of Fame. What was that night, like for you, getting to stand up there and be recognized like that, not only just by your school, but by the entire conference?
Chris, do you sleep at all? Chris, do you ever go to sleep? I was inducted into 2 Hall of Fames in 2 years, the school Hall of Fame, the School Athletic Hall of Fame, and the Conference Hall of Fame. And I said the same thing to the commissioner of the conference that night that I said to the athletic director at the school. I asked them if they'd made a mistake. It was obviously a great honor. Those kind of things that happen in your life when you're recognized by your peers, by your own school, by your conference. They're special things, and nothing in comparison to obviously to a baseball Hall of Fame or an NFL Hall of Fame, anything like that. But it's certainly nice to be recognized anytime you're recognized by your peers and by people that are around you and care about you. So it was an awful lot of fun. It was a very humbling experience, and something I'll always remember. It was a neat time.
You were the director of golf instruction at Westchester Country Club for 11 years, site of the Westchester Classic. People know it today better as the Barclays Classic. But back in the day, Westchester had some of the biggest celebrity members of the time. People like Carol Burnett and Johnny Carson, John Daly of What's My Line fame, not the golfer John Daly, and Jackie Gleason, just to name a few. Were any of the celebrities there, either students of yours or people you got the opportunity to get out on the course with?
They were before my time at that club. One of the things that you don't know about Westchester, maybe I can stump you on this one, is one of the great great early things about Westchester is the first golf secretary at Westchester Country Club was Tommy Armour. And,
wow.
and one of the residents of the club at the beginning of its time was a guy named Walter Hagen. So the club had a lot of wonderful traditions in golf, and it was probably the biggest break in my career when John Kennedy, who's still there, actually going to retire next year as director of golf there, hired me as his director of instruction. And John became a huge influence in my life, a big mentor in my life, a father figure in my life, or a big brother in my life, whatever you want to call him, but he's still a very dear friend of mine. He gave me a wonderful opportunity there and put me on a very big stage with not a lot of experience at that time, and kind of turned me loose and let me do my thing, and it really changed my entire life in terms of my professional life, and I'll be forever be grateful to both John and to the club for what they did for me. It's a wonderful, wonderful place. It's a big old dinosaur. A wonderfully sophisticated place, 2 wonderful Walter Travis golf courses, and being part of that place for 11 years with 11 Buick Classics and being exposed to the players that came through and the teachers that came through, and some of the people I got to work with there on their golf games. I developed a wonderful relationship while I was there with a guy named Seve Ballesteros,
wow.
which was really a magical couple of seasons for me there. So, Westchester is a very, very fond memory for me, and it's a very, very special place in my heart.
Tom, I was looking over your site, tompatri.com, and for our listeners, it's Patri, so tompatri.com. You've got listed on there as one of your favorite sites, our good friend Peter Kessler's site. Talk about your relationship with Peter.
Peter Kessler is in my world anyway, I can only speak for myself, is somebody who's incredibly missed in terms of the Golf Channel, and I'm going to get in a lot of trouble now, Chris, but I think the Golf Channel has done the channel itself and the golf world a terrible disservice dismissing him. He's a extremely talented guy. It's a really funny story. I read a little tiny blurb, maybe a 3-sentence blurb in a golf publication when the Golf Channel was just an idea in the mind of Joe Gibb and Arnold Palmer. And I wrote Mr. Gibb a letter, a cold call letter, and I said, if this ever happens, I'd love to come on and be part of the channel. And 2 years later, when it actually aired, I got a wonderful phone call from Joe Gibb and said, Tom, that's going to happen. Somebody's going to be in touch with you. And I got to go on, I guess I've been on 3 or 4 or 5 times, but I think 3 of the 5 times I was on with Peter. So it was the early days of Golf Academy Live, and the man just couldn't have been any nicer to me, couldn't have been any more welcoming to me, couldn't have made you feel more comfortable, was a wonderful interviewer, and a very good researcher as you are, Chris, and that exposure obviously was a big help to me in my career as well. So again, I'm sounding a little sentimental here, but Peter Kessler, like Westchester Country Club, holds a special place in my heart. I think he's a wonderfully talented person.
No, I couldn't agree with that more. He is a wonderfully talented person, and we do miss him. It does boggle my mind as well how Peter is not hosting a show somewhere, whether it's on the Golf Channel or any other channel, for that matter, ESPN Classic or any of the regular channels. I mean, Peter's knowledge of the game of golf is no one matches Peter's knowledge of the game of golf from what's going on, in the game today to its history, and no one tells a better story and is a better host of anything than Peter Kessler.
I agree, Chris. I think network TV, cable TV, major maybe PGA Tour Radio is a real swing and a miss without Peter somewhere present in the golf world doing his thing.
Agreed. Tom, I'm curious, you played, professionally, all over the world, as we talked about in your intro. Ultimately, you decided to teach instead. Why?
Well, because I always liken that when I get that question from my junior students or from any of my students or any people in my life, I was the white 6'1" point guard in the NBA. I was about 3 inches too short, a little bit too slow, and couldn't jump quite high enough, and I was real close, I was real talented, I was real good, but I just wasn't good enough, and I gave it a really hard, almost 8-year tryout there, better part of 7-year tryout there, and I worked my butt off, and I had some really nice finishes and some nice events, but I wasn't good enough, and at some point, I think as a a preacher of reality to other people, you have to wake up one morning, look in the mirror, and say, it's time to, you give it a try. It's time to move on. And 7 years plus was more than an ample try. I really, Chris, truthfully, never ever pictured myself being a teacher. It's funny. The story is that when I woke up that morning and made that decision, and there actually was a morning and an occurrence when I made that decision, I didn't know what I was going to do. I did not see myself at a golf club as a head professional or as a teacher. I just didn't see that. And for 2 years, I interviewed on Wall Street. I interviewed in Madison Avenue. I interviewed for sales positions. And I was offered a lot of nice positions. And I couldn't let go of the game. And the same man at Westchester Country Club, John Kennedy, gave me an opportunity at a place called Cold Spring Country Club a couple years before in Long Island to teach. And I got to tell you, I thought I was horrible at it. I thought I was absolutely horrible and struggled with it. And then there was another occurrence in my life, and another person entered my life that changed my view on that and mentored me that made a big difference. And we can talk about him at some point if you'd like. But there was, there's a couple of forks in everybody's lives, I think, a couple of forks in the road in everybody's lives that changed where they're going dramatically. And John Kennedy and this other person were two people that made all the difference in the world to me.
And Tom, before we let you go, we've got our next guest, Carling Nolan, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Carling here in just a minute, but we can't let you go without getting a playing lesson from you. For those of us, getting ready to go play golf this weekend, what's one of your favorite tips that can help us save a few strokes off our game, or shave a few strokes off our game?
I don't, Chris, I don't see very many people playing golf in balance. I think that we've been so infected and so marketed by the distance craze with equipment and balls and everything else that goes along with it that not many people hit very many solid shots in the center of their club face. And usually that's a byproduct of them being out of balance and swinging at a pace that they can't really control. It's like writing a check that you can't cash. So if they did nothing else but go to the range and found a tempo that allowed them to stay in balance, I think they'd find the center of their club face a lot more often, center of the fairway a lot more often, and the center of the green a lot more often, and they'd really enjoy the game a lot more.
Well, that's good advice. And Tom, like I say, you've got a wonderful website, tompatri.com. Let our listeners know what they can find when they go out to your site.
Well, on my site, Chris, there's not only a lot of information about the golf swing itself and how to get better, but there's a lot of information about my teaching there, my philosophies there, the six-spoke approaches there, which is my cornerstone. And a lot of information about my schools and my teaching both in Naples and on the road are there. So if anybody'd like to get better, that'd probably be a pretty good place to start.
There you go. And Tom, how can our listeners also follow you over social media as well?
Facebook page, obviously, facebook.com/Tom Patri. There's a Twitter feed, there's a LinkedIn feed, and everything's available to connect to through my website, which is tompatri.com. All the links are right there. So jump in, ask some questions, make some posts, and let's get this thing rolling.
There you go. Tom, thank you so much for joining me this morning. It was great having you as part of the show. I hope you'll come back soon and talk more about, some of your stories and insights. Plus, you can talk more about who your mentor was and that sort of thing. But you were fantastic. I hope you'll come back.
Chris, I'll come back anytime you want. We don't know each other. You called me, and I'm happy to come on. The thing that really cued me to come on more than anything else was the link to Armed Forces Radio. God bless those people.
Absolutely right. Thanks, Tom. All the best to you and your family. I look forward to the opportunity of hopefully catching up with you again real soon.
Anytime, Chris. Thank you very much.
All right. Take care, Tom. That's Golf Magazine top instructor Tom Patri. Again, his site, tompatri.com. Great stuff from Tom. What a wonderful career that he had, from the time in junior golf through his time at Florida Southern, and then as every year, folks, top 100 teacher since the year 2000. Great stuff from Tom. Look forward to having him back on the show, hopefully again real soon. We've got our next guest, Carling Nolan, hanging on the line. We're going to get to Carling on the other side of this station identification.
You're listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, heard around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
Now back with me on the Seymour Putters guest line is Carling Nolan. Let me remind you about Carling's background. She's from Middletown, Ohio, which is in the southwestern part of Ohio. Started playing golf at the age of 11. She won the Ohio State High School Championship in 2002 and played her college golf at Ohio State, where she was a three-time All-Big Ten player and named Freshman of the Year in 2005. She was the individual runner-up at the 2006 Big Ten Conference Championship. She won the Golf Channel's Big Break Sandals Resort in 2010, winning the final event thanks to a 25-foot birdie putt on the 17th hole. Last year, she played out on the Symetra Tour, formerly known as the LPGA's Developmental Tour. The Bleacher Report ranked her as the 9th out of the top 25 hottest golfers ever on the Big Break, and while Women's Fitness ranked her number 2 in the top 10 sexiest women golfers in the world, and I think both sold her short, by the way. She's now the co-host of TV shows 18 Holes with Jimmy Hanlin, which can be seen on Fox Sports around the country, and I'm honored to have her back with me and Next on the Tee this morning. Good morning, Carling. How are you, my friend?
Hey, Chris. Doing good. How you doing?
I'm fantastic, thank you. Better now that you're here.
Stop it now.
So, Carling, before we get into talking about the show and things on the golf course, I got to know your boys, Ohio State. They going to repeat this year, or is the back and forth between the quarterbacks finally going to get you?
I don't know. It's been a tough year. I like seeing Braxton Miller in there, though. He's got a lot of talent. I think he's going to take us all the way.
All right.
But that's just me. I mean, I'm not biased or anything, being an Ohio State.
Of course you're not.
Guy.
Don't be silly. I got to tell you, I'm certainly looking forward to the Michigan-Ohio State game this year for the first time in a number of years. Now that Harbaugh is turning the Michigan program around, I'm sure you are part of a lot of Michigan-Ohio State weeks, which I hear is crazy. What's that like?
Oh, it is so fun, being at Ohio State during Michigan week. Actually, me and my roommates, we used to body paint our entire body scarlet and gray every single year for the Michigan-Ohio State game. Oh, yeah. And, when I was there was a year where Ohio State was ranked number 1 and Michigan was number 2. It was the biggest game in the country. And so all the students were selling their student tickets for like hundreds of dollars. So me and my roommate, we spray painted on the back of us. I'd sell my soul before my tickets. And we went to the game. And actually, ESPN snapped a picture of us. And we were
right?
the fans of the week. Yeah, we were the fans of the week for ESPN. It was great. Oh, my gosh. I wish I want to put that on my resume. I love it so much.
That's fantastic. I got to Google that, see if I can't find that picture.
Yeah, uh-huh.
So, Carling, tell me now, how are things going with the show, 18 Holes with Jimmy Hanlin? How's it going?
Oh, we just capped off a great season this year. We just finished filming in the end of July, so we're getting ready for next season now. But the 2015 season, which is still rolling on air, people will see the episodes now. It was great. We went to 12 different resorts this year, and I think 10 of them were in the top 100 on Golf Digest. Wow. And the other 2 were just outside of it. It was really interesting this year. We got to go to a lot of places that people have heard of, but we've also went to a lot of cool places that people have not heard of.
Yeah.
One of my favorites was we went out in the middle of nowhere, Idaho, called Coeur d'Alene Resort in Idaho, and they had this floating green where you had to get in a boat and they take you out to the green so you can putt out on this par 3. And then they could move the green in the lake everywhere. Oh, my gosh, right? It was really cool.
Wow.
And you know what? It sounds like it could be almost kind of tacky, but they had big, huge 100-foot trees on this thing, and it was really impressive. So seeing a lot of places like that made it just a really fun year.
Are there golf courses, that, are on your bucket list that, you haven't had the opportunity to play yet, or that you and Jimmy are looking as you fast forward ahead to the 2016 season for you guys? Are there places that you're trying to get out there to play?
Absolutely. I'm working on the schedule for next year now, and there's a couple of big ones. Obviously, seeing the PGA Championships at Whistling Straits. I mean, that whole week watching it, I was like, we have to get out there. It's just too beautiful not to get out there. Yeah. So we've been talking to them and seeing if we can't make it happen, but I just know how do you not make that place look good on TV?
Right. So, Carling, for all the work that you're doing on the show, you're not only are you co-hosting the show, right, but you're also behind the scenes doing a lot of work. You talk about scheduling some things, but you're also doing some other things behind the scenes for the show as well, right?
Yeah, I'm actually an executive producer on the show, so I do pick the shoot locations that we go to and organize all the travel for us. And right now I'm working on getting all the sponsors lined up for next year, and it's been a lot of fun getting behind the scenes and doing the business side of things. I feel like I've spent a lot of time. I think it helps being a golfer because when you're on the golf course, all you do is play golf with businessmen all the time. And like my husband would make fun of me because all my friends were like 50-year-old guys. I'm like Bob and Jim and Bill, and so it's easy for me to talk to people like that. So it's been really fun.
So this has got to be a launching pad for you, right? I mean, the Carling Nolan show on the Golf Channel or Fox Sports or wherever has got to be in the works, right?
I hope so. If you guys want to send a bunch of letters into Fox Sports saying that you'd like that, then that would definitely help my case. But right now, I really like working with Jimmy and working with our whole crew. You know, the show started all the way out. It started out in Cleveland as a local golf show, and Fox Sports ended up buying the show and putting it on nationally, but we kept the exact same cameramen and producers and hosts, and so we're still just the same Cleveland group of people traveling around the country trying to make it work. So it's really a blast. So,
Carling, who are some of the really fun people that you've had an opportunity to both get to know and meet, and then ultimately get to play some golf with, whether it's on the show or otherwise?
Oh, geez, that's a good question. We actually went to Dodge City, Kansas a couple weeks ago, and which is where they shot Gunsmoke, the TV show. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a little older, but we went there for the show because they had the 60th year anniversary of Gunsmoke, and they had the entire cast out there at Dodge City, and they have a really nice golf course there called Mariah Hills, but we went there. We got to meet Burt Reynolds, and just nice. What a cool guy. I mean, he's in his 80s now, but he's still just like suave as can be. And and then there's another character on there called Buck Taylor, who is like a sheriff on the show, and he's in his 70s now, and he came out and played some golf with us. But that whole week was really different for us because we really kind of just embraced the Gunsmoke theme. And I mean, Jimmy had on his chaps, and the other guy played in like jeans and a cowboy hat, and we were like drawing guns, and it was so funny because it was so not golfy, but at the same time, meeting everyone in that cast was really legendary too. So it's fun to be able to do, to have different experiences like that.
No doubt, good for you. And kind of along that lines, Carling, are there celebrities or other golf legends that you're trying to work with to get out and have a part of the show and to learn more about them, whether it's at their home golf courses that they've been at, or just really because God bless, I'd love to be able to have Arnold Palmer, whoever it is, on the show and pick his brain for a while.
We actually just started talking about that now. The last couple of years, it's really just been me and Jimmy focusing on these beautiful golf courses. But I think what makes our show really successful, it's been around for way before me, almost 10 years, is it does change a lot every single year, and we want to continue that to really evolve. And I'd like to see a lot more guest celebrities on there in the next couple of years. I guess that we don't really have anyone specifically in mind now, but, it's fun to have golf legends on there, but it's also kind of fun to have different athletes. Before on the show, we've had a couple Cleveland baseball players come on, and it's great because they can hit the ball like 400 yards because they're so strong. But it's interesting to have guests on there. It is always kind of difficult when you throw in guests on a TV show, though. As you know, as you invite people on your radio show all the time, some people have huge personalities, but whenever like the camera suddenly goes on, they just like die inside, and they can't get 2 words out. So we've run into that a lot in the past, where we're like, okay, here we are, and they're like, oh, and so we have to make sure we have the right celebrity in there just to make sure it's still an exciting show, because it can be like pulling teeth sometimes.
No doubt. Carling, Shaun Micheel, 2003 PGA champion Shaun Micheel, has joined me almost every week over the last several months, and he's about to join me here in a few moments. And one of the things that we've talked about is, I'd asked him a couple of weeks ago, hey, in today's world of social media, has anyone given you a hard time or been less than positive with you? And then unfortunately it sort of opened up a hornet's nest, because 2 days later as we were posting things, we got negative comments on the show. So I'm curious for you, is someone who is out there as much as you are, how difficult it's got to be. You got to hear all kinds of craziness from folks out there. I'm sure you hear good things, and I'm sure you hear bad things. But do you find that people particularly over social media are not as kind as they should be?
Well, I will say that I'd say 90% of the people are very kind and supportive, but there's that 10% that'll jab you right where it hurts. And I'd say it was definitely the worst whenever I was on the big break, because, that was such a wildly popular show that people would message me all the time. And like I said, it was a lot of, I love you, Carling, blah, blah, blah. But then it was a lot of I think you're really annoying. You remind me of my ex-girlfriend. If I was ever around you, I'd punch you in the face. Like, just all this stuff. And you're like, wow, man, that's so harsh.
Right.
And then I get that a little bit now. People tell me that I'm all up in Jimmy's grill a lot on the show. They're like, leave him alone, man. Why are you up in Jimmy's grill? And which is kind of funny, because sometimes it affects me on set, because we'll be standing there and the camera guy or the director will be like, okay, Carling, whenever Jimmy hits his shot here, I want you to step in the frame and comment right away. And I'm like, wait, I don't want to be up in Jimmy's grill here, okay? And they're like, don't listen to social media. And sometimes it'll be really vague, too. Like, one guy wrote me a couple weeks ago, and he said, what's up with your shoes? And I'm like,
really?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I said, and I'm thinking, they're like literally like just white golf shoes. So the next week I'm walking around, I'm like, does everyone think there's anything weird in my shoes? Gosh, so you gotta really let it go. You can't let it get to you. But I'm not the best at it, really. I listen a little too much.
That's great. And Carling, as you sort of embark now onto your broadcasting career, when you look at it, has anyone mentored you in that area? Do you model your style after anyone in particular, or is this just I'm shooting off the cuff here?
I'm shooting off the cuff a little bit. But, my dad was a professional speaker. He actually taught a lot of classes on how to be a speaker and look professional in front of groups. He did a lot of business setting things, but he taught me how to do a lot of speech techniques. And so I guess he really mentored me when I was a kid, especially because I was really, really shy, and he really brought me out of my shell. So my dad was really the one that inspired me. But now I'm just kind of winging it and seeing if I can, entertain some people.
There you go. And Carling, before we let you go, we've talked about this on other shows where you've joined me, but I always like to shine a light on it when we have the opportunity, and that's people may not know that you deal with diabetes. Talk about the work you're doing for diabetes and how, living with that and taking care of yourself, both, whether it's on the course or off the course or on camera or off camera, what that's like for you.
Oh, having diabetes is just a lifelong struggle. I have type 1 diabetes, so I wear an insulin pump that's hooked up to me 24 hours a day. I test my blood sugar 10 times a day, watch what I eat, carry around snacks when my blood sugar's too low. So, like I said, you never get a break from it. You're always on it, always checking, always staying on top of things. November is National Diabetes Awareness Month. So
there you go.
Kicked off, we just kicked off breast cancer awareness, and now it's diabetes awareness, which the color is blue. And you can go on my Twitter page. I'm at Carling Nolan, and I'll be posting some more things about that, how you can get involved. And we're really trying to get a good campaign to, let people know that type 1 is very different from type 2 diabetes, and just trying to keep everyone informed. So it's going to be a good month. Hopefully we get a lot done with it.
Right. And Carling, before we let you go, let our listeners know how they can follow you and the show, by the way, both online and over social media as well.
Well, if you want to check out the show, we're on all the Fox Sports regional networks. You can also go to jimmyhanlingolf.com, and then I'll show all the golf shows that we're working with. Social media-wise, follow me on Twitter at Carling Nolan, or I just started an Instagram account. So I'm trying to pick up my followers. Yeah, it's always interesting to go from like 20,000 Twitter followers. Now I have like 100 on Instagram. So jump on there, folks. I'm at Carling Nolan 86, and that's how you can get a hold of me.
There you go. Carling, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to join me again on the show. Always so much fun. Like I said in the intro to the show, every time you're on the show, I can't help it. I smile for 15 minutes. So my face hurts because you make me smile so much. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for being a part of the show. We wish you continued success, there and everything else you're doing as well. I hope you'll come back and join me again soon.
Thank you so much, Chris. You have a great day.
All right, you too. All the best to you and your husband.
Bye.
That's Carling Nolan. Again, you want to talk about, a girl who, went through junior golf and had such a great career at Ohio State playing golf there as well, and is now doing some great things on TV. Boy, Carling Nolan is the picture of that. Again, check her out at Carling Nolan on Twitter. She's doing some great things with the Jimmy Hanlin show as well. So great stuff there. All right, we've got our next guest, Shaun Micheel, ready to join us. He'll be with me on the other side of this station identification.
You're listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, heard around the world on the Armed Forces Radio Network.
All right, now back with me to answer more of your questions on the Seymour Putters guest line is our friend, 2003 PGA Champion Shaun Micheel. Shaun, how are you this morning, my friend?
I'm great. How are you this morning, Chris?
I'm doing really well. Thank you, Shaun. So, Shaun, I know I saw the picture of you and your college golf coach up at the University of Indiana, Sam Carmichael, out there on social media. I know he was inducted this week into the Indiana Hall of Fame. Talk about what it was like to get the opportunity to see your coach honored that way.
Yeah, well, it's really been a long time coming. As I sit here in the airport, just been thinking a lot about last night. I got a chance to see some of the ladies that played for him, and many of them I didn't really know because I was, I'm older. But I think just being there and seeing the support that he had from not only the women's team, but also there were some guys from the men's team that have played. It was just an absolute honor. And to be honest with you, I got inducted in 2005, and it was only 14 years after I got out of college, and I just always felt a little funny about that because, as I said before, I wouldn't have gotten to where, I wouldn't have gone to the places I've been without Sam, and so I always felt like he should have been inducted into the Hall of Fame before me. But it was an incredible night. There were six inductees last night. There were two basketball players. Both of them played for Coach Knight in the 1976 National Championship team, which was probably the best college team in the history of college basketball that went undefeated. So it was just great just to sit with him and his wife, and it was just a beautiful night. For anybody that's been to one of those ceremonies where you're honoring somebody else, it gives you a chance to reflect on really what he meant to me. And I was interesting is, they had called me in July, and they asked me to do a video, kind of an introduction video. And I kind of stewed around for a while. I was like, what am I going to say? Because they wanted it under 2 minutes. And so I finally kind of came up with something, and thank goodness for technology, I was able to do it on my iPad on iMovie. But it was a little weird
Wow.
seeing myself speak to all those people while I'm sitting there watching it live. But it was an honor to be asked to do that, and it was a privilege to even to be there with him, and we shared a lot of great moments, and it was an absolute delight to be there with him.
And Shaun, you say you're sitting there in the airport. Are you coming back, or going back to your home in Memphis, or are you on your way, down to was it Jackson, Mississippi, for the Web.com qualifying?
Yeah, no, I'm going to Houston right now. I'm going to the Web.com qualifying school, which starts on Tuesday. And so I leave there this afternoon. I was hoping to stay for the Indiana-Iowa football game, but it's kind of a weird time at 3:30 in the afternoon. It just doesn't allow me to do much with that. So heading down there, practice rounds start tomorrow, and it'll take a couple days to kind of unwind from the festivities of the last couple days. But I look forward to playing a tournament. It's been since the PGA Championship that I've had any sort of competition. So I'm excited, a little apprehensive, I suppose, too. Because it's really important for me to make it through this time. It's just I need to make it. I need to get back on the web.com. I need more status. I need more playing opportunities, and so those are my goals. So I look forward to getting down there. Hopefully the weather's going to be good and put up some low numbers.
There you go. And you were sharing with me earlier in the week that you started practicing with an old bullseye style putter. Is that something just to help you kind of get your stroke back in line, or are you actually thinking about pulling that out of the bag this week?
No, it's in the bag. Of course, I do have two other putters with me as well, and I have my backup putter, which is my Odyssey back strike that they don't make anymore, but I used it for 5 years. So it always goes with me in case things just kind of go awry. But, I needed something, I think, just to kind of go back. And I feel like the putters today, particularly the mallets, there's a lot of mallets being designed, and they're all out there to convince you that you don't align yourself properly. And I think what happens is that, you have such a big area, a surface area of material behind the ball, with lines and angles, and some are curved, some have square lines. But there's just a lot. It's just very busy. And when you go to a bullseye putter, you got a putter that's maybe, a half inch wide, maybe 3/4 of an inch wide if you have a flange. And it's just sitting out there, and Corey Pavin has used one most of his career. And I just wanted something, I think, just to simplify everything, just to put down behind the ball. And, I think it just adds, it's just a little bit easier to align, I think. It's more of a feel type alignment than it is, optics. When you look down and you see, the center line, or you got lines on the end and the toe. So I think that the putters of today have gotten so busy, and I've kind of fallen prey to the marketing scheme that's out there, if you will, of people convincing me that I don't know how to align my putter. It's really kind of silly. I mean, I think if you took someone out to the putting green and you got to just put them 10 feet from a hole, and you intentionally line them up 3 or 4 feet right of the hole, they're going to look down. They're going to well, that's not right. So they're going to orient themselves back towards the hole. Now, I know you want to be precise, and in the straight putt, it's from 10 feet, it's hard to line up exactly straight. But your mind, it's like when you turn on your airplane and you start to power up the GPS. It takes a while to orient itself, but once it does, it finds itself and it knows where you are. I think it just frees you up, and that's maybe not a great analogy, but again, it's just about feel, and this putter seems to help. So I'll give it a chance. I know the greens are going to be. That's another reason why I wanted to go to it, because I knew that the greens this week were going to be quick. And again, the way that the putters are weighted, the way they're designed, whether it's a face balance or a quarter toe hang, mallet style, or whatever it is, they're heavy. And some people like a very heavy putter on fast greens. I don't. So we'll see. Long story, but I'm going with it just because it's very simple. At least it's going to be in the tomorrow and Monday for the practice rounds. But my backup will be in the bag too. So anyway,
I look forward to hearing how it works out, because I got to be honest with you. My father's got lots of golf clubs up in his office, and he's got a couple of bullseye putters, and when we've been playing around just putting on the carpet and that sort of thing, I've pulled those things out a couple of times and actually stroked the putter pretty well. But you look down and you go, you can't bring this out on the golf course now in the day and age with the Odyssey putters, to your point, and everything else, all the other kind of putters out there. You can't do that. So, but if you hit it right.
It's the one thing I think that you're not going to bring out a persimmon wood. For one, you'd crack the face by the first swing. Irons haven't changed a whole lot. I mean, really, the iron sizes, you've got a lot of game improvement stuff out there. but the putter design is really the one thing that I think is really held up. I mean, the sweet spot, it feels just as good with these harder balls, as it did with the softer Bellata. And, visually it just takes a little while to kind of get used to it if you haven't, if you've been in a mallet style, or I'll call mine a rear shafted putter, more onset putter. It's totally different looking, but again, it's just so simple. It's just you put on the ground, and it's kind of falls in line with the inside of the sweet spot, and it's got a really good grip on it. It feels good in my hands, and so we'll see. But certainly, I'll let you know. I mean,
please.
I think who knows what they're going to pair me with? They might pair me with a couple young kids that have never even seen a bull size.
What is that?
I know, exactly. So, I'm not bringing out the hickory shafts or anything like that. It's putter. So I don't know.
I know you don't have much.
Something different.
I know you don't have much time, Shaun. Like I said last week, boy, it's just been great to see the number of questions we've been getting, and we didn't even get to all the ones last week. So
right.
I want to get a couple of questions here before we have to let you go, and you need to get on your plane. The first question this week is about, Shaun, what is the craziest side bet that anyone has asked you to be a part of?
Oh, God. Side bet. I don't know. Not a whole lot of gambling. I think there's been a lot of that's been, the Phil Mickelson sagas of
right.
all the gambling he's got with these young kids out there, and I don't know. We never really interesting side bets, I don't think. I mean, at my Make-A-Wish tournament, I do something where I send out on the 11th hole at Southwind. In all the groups that come through, I hit shots and stuff. And there was a friend of mine from Arkansas had brought his family over, and a group of guys, and brought his son. His son wasn't playing in the tournament, but his son was just kind of riding along. So we get up to they come up to the 11th hole, and his son was, I think he was about 13 or 14 at the time. And anyway, his dad said, "Hey, look, I want my son to hit against you." And it was a competition, because if I was trying to help the team, but if they got inside me, then they won. I can't remember what they won. I think they won a club of some sort of wedge or something like that. And anyway, Carson wasn't playing in the tournament, but his dad wanted him to hit against me. Now, he's 13 years old. He might have been 12. And so he gets up there and he's challenging me to this bet. And he's got this unbelievable duck hunting place. And he's like, "Look, okay, you beat Carson. You get to come duck hunting or whatever." And I don't remember what it was, but I really didn't. I kind of dismissed it, because, this kid's 12 years old. He hasn't hit a shot yet. And he gets up there, and I hit first. I was hitting first, and I hit it, 10 feet, 12 feet. It was like sand wedge or something like that, 120 yards. He gets up there and hits it like a foot. So
wow.
Anyway, so there wasn't a whole lot of betting going on. It was more of a benefit for me, I think, if I won, because I was going to get to go duck hunting at this fabulous place, and I lost. So they've gotten bragging rights over me. But I don't know. Typical stuff that we see out there is, we play for money. It's always money. Could be dinner, with my friends and guys like that. We'll play for some adult beverages and stuff like that. But I can't think of anything that's just really crazy. Nothing at least that would be terrible. Maybe late night TV or radio, probably.
There you go. We also had a question this week about you and John Daly. The question is, Shaun, John Daly lived in Memphis for a while. Did you and John ever get the opportunity to go out and play golf?
Yes. This was my lesson to betting. This was 1989. I was a sophomore. I might have been between my sophomore and my junior year of college. And a friend of mine from home who played the tour named Doug Barron, he played for 5 or 6 years. We used to play everybody around the city, around the state. We'd have people come in from other states to play us, and we won all the time. And so he calls me up and he says, "Hey, I got this guy coming over from Arkansas, this guy named Brian Wagner." I think Brian played for the Oklahoma. I think he played for Arkansas. And this guy named John Daly. Okay. So I go out there to my home club, our home club, Ridgeway Country Club, And I get up to the range and meet everybody. Now, John has everybody remembers this white ceramic, I believe it was a Wilson driver. It was a ceramic head with like a red shaft, like a red razorback hogs.
Uh-huh.
So I show up, I'm hitting a few balls, and he starts hitting driver, and I've never seen anything like it. I could not believe. I'm like, what have you gotten me into? Well, we go out and play. John shoots 65. I think I shot 69. And now, Doug, I was never a huge bettor. I never was like, let's do this, let's press and automatic 2 downs or 1 down automatic, whatever it was you were going to do.
Right.
So I just had like one bet. Doug had bets going with everybody in the group and the group behind us. Well, John shoots 65, and I shoot 69, I think, and lose. And when it's all tallied up, 1989, I'm a sophomore going into junior college. I lost $500.
Wow.
To this guy named John Daly. So I go walking in to the 19th hole. Fortunately, my dad was there, as he was every other time I play golf. And I took him aside. I said, Dad, I need to borrow some money. And he says, what'd you do? And I told him. And he just looked at me, and he opened up his wallet, and he gave me the money. And I had a little bit, but he gave me what I needed. And he just kind of looked at me and says, we can talk about this later. And, and that's the first time I ever played with John Daly. Well, we went back out and played. This was just more for fun because John loved to win, but he really didn't care about the money. He really didn't. He was, he probably would have given it back to us. But anyway, we get on the 9th hole as a par 3, and he had an 88.02 putter, and he teed off with his putter, and he hit like a 50-yard slice, and he hit it like 15 feet from 200 yards.
Oh, my.
And I was just like, well, I couldn't believe it. So I've played a lot of golf with John, but that's the first time I ever played with him. And it's something that I tell people that story all the time about John and how talented he is. He really is. And he always had that magical touch. When he puts his hands on the golf club, even to this day, they just look like they just belong there. There were other people like that. I think Byron Nelson was one. Sam Snead was another. But there are a few guys that when they put their hands on the club, they just look like they fit. And John still looks like that to this day.
Shaun, one more before we let you go. Our next one of the other questions we got was more about life outside of golf, and it says, Shaun, you've mentioned on the show that you're a Kiss fan. What are some of the other interests or fandoms you have away from golf?
Well, I enjoy playing guitar. I've got a 1961 Gibson SG reissue that I play. I love music. I love flying airplanes. I haven't flown much in the last couple of years. I've had my license since I was 18 years old. I love planes. I've flown a lot of different planes. I've flown with the first fighter wing at Langley Air Force Base in an F-15. In 2011, I flew with the Top Gun Squadron out of Fallon, Nevada. They moved it from Miramar in San Diego to Fallon, Nevada. So I flew with Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Craig was his name, and we still keep in touch. And he flew me in an F-18. And so I have a lot of interests, really. Certainly family's one of them, but I love playing guitar. Not great, but I enjoy it, and I love flying planes. And it was part of my introduction speech last night to Sam was that up until maybe my sophomore year in college, I of course thought about playing professional golf, but it wasn't until really he took over the program because he had played from 62 to 69 on the PGA Tour. And I decided then and there that that's what I was going to do. And he took me to that level. And I was either going to do that or I was just going to be a part of the Federal Express family. Everybody knows them as FedEx now. I still call them Federal Express, But so I love planes. I love the smell of jet fuel. It really kind of gets me going. I love being around planes. I love talking planes. I love it so much. I can name any plane that goes over. I'm always looking at different things. It's crazy. And I told you this a couple of weeks ago. We got talking about the negative side of golf and some of the things, and and people label you one-hit wonder and stuff like that. And there are times where, you know, I look at my friends, they're flying 777s. One guy's a captain in a 767. And I wish that maybe I would have gone that route. I love it so much. I just love planes. But, you know, I've chose this kind of lonely life of golf, and I'm so happy I did. I love it. But aviation was something that really took to me because my father used to take me to the flight simulator when he would have his check rides every 6 months. When I was 8, 9 years old. I'm sitting in the plane. They would let me fly the plane. So I've really been flying these big jets, I guess, since I was about 10 years old. You know, so there are parts of me that at times wish I'd do that, because I think my career would still be going. I'd have another 20 years of great earning potential, the joy of travel, and it's difficult to travel. I see the issues that they have, but anyway, I'll get off that. But aviation is something I absolutely love. But you know, I could go on and on talking about all the things about planes that I like, but I guess, you know, we don't have enough time for all that.
Especially not this week. I know you got to get on a plane here in a minute. And we've got, like I say, more questions sort of around that area, but I know we need to let you go. And before we do that, remind our listeners one more time, Shaun, how they can keep track of you and follow you over social media.
Yeah, so I do Twitter. I don't do a whole lot. You know, I'm at Shaun Micheel PGA, and then my Facebook page is Shaun Micheel, and I also do LinkedIn, the same Shaun Micheel. So there was a few things that have been posted. I enjoyed meeting a lot of the ladies from the earlier teams that Sam had coached. You know, posted a lot of pictures of us last night, and it was an absolute joy to get to meet some of them. And so there's a few more pictures, you know, of that, and me just kind of reminiscing a little bit with my coach and some of my former teammates. So there's a few things on there too, but I try to add, and you know, look, you get questions all the time that we don't get answered. I'd certainly welcome anybody to reach out to me just directly, and you know, I'm happy to answer anything that people have. You know, it's fun. I enjoy being on the show with you, and I hope the listeners are really getting a lot out of it and really finding some enjoyment in the game. And I'm certainly finding that it's great to talk about some things that aren't related to maybe the technical aspects of golf, and so I enjoy sharing those stories and memories. So keep them coming.
Absolutely. Shaun, thank you so much for taking time out of your morning while you're sitting at an airport to be a part of the show today. Safe travels, my friend. We look forward to hearing the good news about the web.com tour and how the bullseye putter works for you. Hopefully we get the opportunity to do it next week.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'll get to Houston tomorrow or today, and I'll get it out on the putting green. I'll take a picture just to kind of just to show everybody and prove that it's in there.
That's great. God, safe travels, my friend. We look forward to catching up soon. All right, take care, Shaun.
Thank you.
It's 2003 PGA Champion Shaun Micheel here to answer your questions. And as he says, you can reach him out on Twitter, and you can find him on Facebook, and keep the questions coming, because it's been a lot of fun to listen to Shaun share his insights and experiences with us every week. All right, friends, it's time for us to put a bow on this episode. Before we do close up shop, you know, I like to tell you about, you know, our good friends Dave Stockton and Dave Stockton Jr. and their book, Own Your Game. Remember, folks, you hear us talking about this, you know, so often here on the show. The game is played, you know, a lot of times in that 5-inch space between our ears. So get your mind right. In this book, the Stocktons let you know how to, you know, play winning golf through strong mental pieces of the game. It recreates, you know, an experience of riding 18 holes with Dave Stockton at one of his highly sought-after corporate outings, and draws from his experience both as a champion player on the regular tour and the senior tour, and now as a revered coach as well. He teaches you how to think better, stay calmer, execute more consistently, and most importantly, how to enjoy the game more thoroughly. Go to StocktonGolf.com to get your copy, and for a couple of extra dollars, Mr. Stockton will even autograph the copy for you. The Stocktons, folks, oh, by the way, you've heard us talk about it over the last couple of weeks. They have a new partnership with Back Nine Greens for our listeners out in the state of California. Check out back9greens.com. If you're like me and you hate cutting the grass, check out their artificial turf landscaping pieces, plus their putting greens as well, which are absolutely amazing, folks. They have an unmatched passion for installing the highest quality artificial grass products, including synthetic grass lawns and synthetic grass turf putting greens. Fantastic stuff. Check it out, again, online, back9greens.com. All right, everybody, my sincere thanks to Paul Grangaard, Tom Patri, Carling Nolan, and Shaun Micheel for joining me today and making today's show so much fun for me to be a part of. I hope you enjoyed it as well. Please check out our sister show, Thursday Night Tailgate, with me, my co-host Bob Lazari, and our announcer Joe Lajanusa as well. That show airs live every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. You can find it on Blog Talk Radio as well as Armed Forces Radio as well. And we're online. We're everywhere online. You can find us on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player.fm, SoundCloud, Audio Boom, Podbean. We're all over the internet for our listening to the show as a podcast as well. So Thursday Night Tailgate, every week we have great players from around the NFL legends. We are official partners of the NFL Alumni Association. So you get to hear, all of your favorite NFL stars that you grew up watching. So please check us out, ThursdayNightTailgate.com. You can find us online. This show you can find online at nextonthet.net. From either site, you can stream or download any of our archive episodes for free, folks. Plus, keep up to date with who some of our future guests are going to be. I can't thank you enough, again, for choosing to listen to this show today. We appreciate it very much. Until next week, hit 'em straight, my friends.
You've been listening to Next on the Tee with Chris Mascaro, where PGA and LPGA legends, pros and top instructors, and media members go to tell their stories. Join us the same time every Saturday to hear more stories about the game we love from the people who love sharing those stories with you. It's all about the great game of golf. It's all about the great game of golf.